Hey everybody, welcome to MD's Levrone Report, starring Hall of Fame bodybuilder, the man himself, the Maryland Muscle Machine, Kevin Levrone. How are you, Kevin?
Thank you, Ron. I'm doing good, buddy. How about you, man?
Doing great. So we're talking in early September, and that means Levrone Supplements is finally available for these wonderful United States of America citizens. So where can your American fans pick up Levrone Supplements?
They can go to Amazon Prime and find the Levrone Signature Series there. Those guys are drop shipped right to your house. So I'm excited about it. You know, we're coming out of the gates and we're launching with 2 products. And as we go along this journey, we're going to be adding more and more and more and more to the line. So,
right on.
Yep.
Tell me one of those products is Shaboom Pump.
Hey, right here, baby.
Yeah.
I have it right here at my disposal, the Shaboom Pump, the American version, which means, as you know, or maybe some people don't know, but let me let you guys know, we're over like so many different countries around the world, a lot, that's where we are. In each and every country that we go into, just like the USA, they have laws, rules, and regulations with the Food Drug Administration of how many milligrams of vitamins that you are allowed, or any ingredient that you're allowed to maximize to put in there per serving. And American version is of course different than the EU version. In America, we're able to push it just a more, you know, not a crazy amount, but we're able to push the bar more. And we're happy about this formula right here, the Levrone Shaboom Pump. Nice, powerful formula that we've been working with to try to get everything perfect. I'm not going to say try, I'm going to say perfect.
Yeah.
Tastes good, tastes great. So I can't wait for all of my fans and everybody that's been waiting, endless years waiting for the product to come here to America. It's finally here, Ron. And I want to thank MD, because you guys have been one of the first that has got behind us, the support of Steve, the support of you, and you know, Muscular Development. And I want to say thank you guys very much for helping us. Thank you very much for all your input. Steve has been really helpful with that. And hey man, here we are.
Yeah. So this is going to be called my Mr. Olympia Memories. And I'm looking at how many Olympias you were in. We're going to have to break this up into 2 videos, Kevin, because you were in the Olympia. You stood on the Mr. Olympia stage 13 times from 1992 to 2016. You were in the top 5 11 of those 13 times. You were runner-up 4 of those times. I think the only other person that was runner-up at the Mr. Olympia that many times was Jay Cutler to Ronnie Coleman. Yeah. So man, what a run you had. What a run. So I thought it would be cool to go briefly through each year. I wrote down the top 5 and anything I thought might be interesting. And I'd like to get your commentary on it because you were there, obviously. These were all your appearances.
Yeah, sure.
So the very first Mr. Olympia you competed in was your rookie year as a pro. And Helsinki, Finland. This was an era, 1991, 2, and 3. It was a 3-year span that's never been duplicated because 3 years in a row, we had rookies, guys standing on stage in Olympia for their first time who took 2nd place to the reigning champion. You did that. You were 2nd place to Dorian Yates, who he had been 2nd place the year before to Lee Haney in his 8th win. And then the next year, Flex Wheeler was 2nd place to Dorian. So 1992, Helsinki, Finland. I think you said that was the first time you actually took a plane flight. You were in there. The top 5 was Dorian Yates, Kevin Levrone, Lee Labrada, Sean Ray, 5th place to late Momo Benaziza. And it was also in 12th place, the return of Lou Ferrigno after 17 years away from the stage when he had been doing The Incredible Hulk and various movie projects. So here you are, this, I don't know, 24, 25-year-old guy, young kid, just had done, you'd had a great rookie season so far. You won a couple shows already. And man, you were able to, the condition you showed in that Olympia was just spectacular. I don't know if it was your best ever, but you could see every fiber on your muscle fiber on your body in that show. What do you remember most about Finland?
Well, I remember Helsinki, Finland being very, very cold. It was freezing when we arrived there. And I had, I heard that Lou Ferrigno was coming, and it was a chance for me to compete against the greats, Sean Ray, Lee Labrada, of course, Dorian Yates. Yeah. This thing was wide open, Yeah. And this was it, man. I was young coming in. I was hungry. I wasn't intimidated, and it was a long flight. It wasn't my first flight, because prior to that, I had flew to California. I think it's due to San Francisco Pro Show or something like that.
Yeah.
And of course, out there meeting Joe Weider. So it was just flying from America to Helsinki, Finland. It was a long flight. I think it might have took about 17 hours to get there, something like that, because you had to fly, then you had to switch planes, and somehow find your conditioning. And I think it was very educational, very challenging to see if I could bring that conditioning that I had here in the US to the stage over there. I felt really, really good about it. I wasn't intimidated. I was happy to be there. Looking back at my conditioning, I was ripped. I was shredded. I was probably about 227 on stage. And if I could have done one thing, which I didn't know at the time, I probably would have carved up a little more. But taking everything into consideration, a long flight like that, my first time on an Olympia stage in 1992 with all those great bodybuilders. I mean, it was deep. It was deep. It was just so deep, man.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. I mean, it was just when they called me out for second, I was just blown away. And being in the presence of Lou Ferrigno, Sean Ray, Dorian Yates, Momo Benaziza, Milo Sarchev, Sonny Schmidt, Terry Pastel, and Andreas Munzer. It just goes on and on, with all these great bodybuilders that I had saw in the magazines. And as a young kid, you seeing these guys, and you're actually there walking underneath the lights, hearing the Mr. Olympia music, seeing Joe Weider there, and all the press and all the cameras and everything. It was just an amazing experience. The challenging part of it was trying to find the pump in the pump up room, because it was so cold. This show was held in a ice skating rink.
Yes.
And it was a hockey game going on that same day after prejudging. So we did what we had to do, and it was a great show, great memories.
Yeah, and just last trivia for people, that was Ronnie Coleman's first Mr. Olympia appearance. He did not make the top 15. He placed out of the top 15. Okay, the following year, 1993, this is the year, I believe, you tore your pec very early in the year, correct?
Actually, I tore my chest after coming home from the 92 Mr. Olympia. So the show was Mr. Olympia was in September, and I tore my chest. I think it was probably around as soon as I had got home, I was working out in the gym. Wow. And I tore it about a couple weeks after I got home. And it was in the wintertime. It was cold, and I had to have surgery. So it put me out for 7 months leading up to the 1993 Mr. Olympia.
So less than a year after fully tearing your pec, and I'll get a picture of that. I remember the bruise was like from here to your waist.
Yeah,
it was a horrible tear. You still made the top 5 with what? Like, you had to do, you can talk about it, but you had to go from losing all that muscle, putting it back on, getting in shape, and being on the Olympia stage in some ridiculously short span of time. Top 5 that year was Dorian again, Flex Wheeler. So this was Atlanta, I think, Atlanta, Georgia. Sean Ray. Oh, I didn't write down 4th. I don't know who 4th was. Oh, dope. I'll have to look that up. But you were 5th place.
Might have been. Was it Chris Cormier? I'm not sure.
It might have been. I'll have to look that up. Strange.
Yeah, I don't know who that was, but I can tell you, I got home, I ripped my chest, and that wasn't just a tear. I blew it out. I tore my pectoralis major, minor, and snapped my tendon. My tendon broke too. So I had to have a 15-hour surgery. I was laid up for 7 months. And coming out of that was a huge challenge because my muscles had all atrophied. I lost probably about 35 pounds of solid muscle. And I went from 240 something, 250 something at that time when I ripped it down to about 216. And I had to learn how to do everything. I could not use my right arm for 7 months. It had got infected. So they had to go back in. Again, it just wasn't a tear. My tendon, all that stuff. So they put 6 screws down on me. They operated on a cadaver, a dead body, and see if they could do that surgery, because every athlete that had that, and as a professional bodybuilder, they had a deform. You could actually see where their pec was cut and everything. So they never were the same.
Right.
And by the grace of God, Dr. Kevin Testworth, orthopedic surgeon at the University of Maryland, it was just a miracle that when I walked in the emergency room after tearing my chest that night, I had drove to the operating room at the University of Maryland Hospital. I drove myself, and I knew what had happened after benching the 600, and I had to push that weight off of me. And the guy that was spotting me was a good friend of mine. He was spotting me, but it was so cold, and I was so lean. I wasn't thinking. I was just strong, but my tendons couldn't handle it, and it just exploded. So getting to the hospital, I walked in, and I walked into a doctor. He knew who I was. He had followed the sport of bodybuilding. That calmed me down right there, and I started explaining to him, and he says, "You don't have to say anything. We're not going to cut you there. We're going to go underneath your armpit." And he goes, "But I'm going to see if I can get to that tendon underneath your armpit." And that's when he tried on a dead body first.
Yeah.
And he called me up the next day. He says, "We're going to wait for the swelling to go down. In 48 hours, I'm going to try to have you back here. But meanwhile, go ahead and ice it." So I went back. I had surgery for about 8 hours. I was out for about 3 days, laid up in the hospital, seeing if everything heals right. Then the infection came in. I had to go back in. They had to open me back up for about another 5 or 6 hours. It was challenging because I didn't know what to tell the federation. I didn't know what to tell Joe Weider. I had a contract, and I had to be on stage that September in 1993. And reading all the horror stories of everything, it was just mind over matter for me. I jumped into mind over matter. I said, you know what? This could go 2 ways. And I could either let this get the best of me, completely just be done, be a fly by night, and nobody will never know. I'm just hurt, I'm gone, and I'll never be the same. Or I can take this and try to turn it into something great and do what no bodybuilder has never done. And that's to start his career after a horrific injury like this. By the grace of God, I didn't work out for 7 months. My body went down to 216. I had 4 months. I had to learn how to do push-up. I had to learn how to do incline with a 45-pound bar. That's where I started off at. And my body just started responding, and I started seeing change in the mirror, and I just didn't quit, and I didn't give up, and I just would pray, and I just would eat, but I didn't have time on my side. I didn't have time on my side. Like I said, I came out I had 4 months. It was in June where I had to start back. So July, August, September, within 16 weeks, less than 16 weeks, almost close, I had to be back on stage.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know what happened. It was just, I recognized at that point, something's going on here. Now think about it. I could not lift 500. I could not bench press 405. I had to get where I needed to be, just messing around with 225 and at the most 315. So my mind was like, oh man, I was so afraid of anything, but my body responded because I think the muscles remember muscle memory. Went on stage. I placed 5th, I think.
Yeah, 5th.
I placed 5th against a serious lineup. And at that point, they were saying, well, he must have, they couldn't see. They couldn't see that much of a difference and said, well, it must not have been that bad.
Right.
Well, it was that bad. And at this point, I brought my Dr. Kevin Testworth, and Arnold had invited us to do the Arnold Classic. And that 6 months was when I realized that, you know what, if I have 6 months to train, I could be 100%. So I got 5th at the 93 Olympia. Yep. And I had some time to get myself together, and I trained for 6 months, came back and won the Arnold Classic. So I revamped myself and brought my doctor and show the world how bad that was. Mind over matter, where the mind goes, the body follows. And I knew at that point, Ron, that's how I realized that, you know what, I can do, by the grace of God, maybe he gave me a gift or something, I can do in 3 or 4 months what it'll take the average person a year to do. So that's when I decided that, you know what, I don't need to train for a contest all year round. Just give me about a good solid 12 to 16 weeks. I'll be good to go.
Yeah. And, you know, Rich, we've talked about this before, but I think that saved your joints. That saved your body in so many ways. That's why you're so fresh and healthy.
I believe it probably saved my life, because I would not be here if I didn't have any limitations put on me, because I was that type of guy. I would have kept benching more. I would have kept squatting more. Yeah. So, and I probably would have kept taking more. You know, I'm a hyper responder, and it was just one of those things that I needed a wake up call, something to slow me down. And ever since then, I would just really think about, will this hurt me? Will it not hurt me? Should I take this? Should I not take that? And, you know, it just led into the fact that I started saying, well, then I really don't need that much. I don't need to, you know, I don't need to juice all year round. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I didn't, because I couldn't do it when I was hurt. So that's when I started coming into my own and realizing, you know, who Kevin Levrone was and my approach to preparation for contests.
Well, so next year you come into the Olympia as the reigning Arnold Classic champ, which is always a great thing. And here's how it shook out in 1994. It was Dorian again, of course. Sean Ray took second place that year. You were right behind him in third place. Fourth place, Big Paul Dillette. In fifth place, Porter Cottrell, who I guarantee a lot of people watching this are like, Porter Cottrell, who's that? They have no idea. He was very good. But yeah, so that was your first year back with no issues, because you didn't have to go through the whole, but you did the same thing again, right? You would downsize a little bit in the off season, and then you did what the old school guys used to do. You grew into the show. And that was really when the second time people saw that. That was like the legend of Kevin Levrone. This is a guy, you could see him 6 months up from the Olympia, and you're like, oh no, he's too small, he's too this and that. And then I'd see you at the show and like, nope, he's fine. I don't know why I stopped doubting you after I saw it a couple times.
You know, coming into that show, you know, I think about how big Dorian Yates was getting. And I don't know if that's the year when those black and white photos came out of him.
It was.
I think that might have been that year.
Yeah.
And at that point, you know, it's strategic planning, because the first year I competed, I was 220, 227. And then after the ripping my chest, I think I was probably like 230, 234, 230 something. Yeah. Then I moved up to about 242. At that Olympia right there, I was about 242. I thought I was enough. I thought I was looking good. I had made some gains, but unfortunately, you know what? Dorian Yates came out blazing. He was just at another level. I mean, somehow he went back and put on another 15 or 20 pounds of muscle as well. Yeah. And Dorian Yates competed in 1992 at the Olympia. He was probably 230s.
Yeah.
But he went and reached back and got another, you know, 15 pounds of serious muscle, and it went into his back and most of it in a lot of places. And he just brought a different serious package that year. Yeah. And he raised the bar for all of us, man. And I'll never forget it. So, you know, it was a battle. And, you know, Sean Ray had his presentations of this incredible perfection when it come to hitting the stage, quarter turns, prejudging. I mean, everybody up on that stage was just point on, you know, and you're just, as a young cat coming in, you're still trying to find your way and get in there and be who you are, coming to your own.
Yeah. Okay. So now we go into it. The next year was, I know 95 was Atlanta. I remember that show very well. So Dorian won again. And again, you're second place, right behind you in third, Nasser El Somebody, making a big push up to the top that year. Sean Ray in fourth, very consistent. Fifth, Vince Taylor, another great from the 90s. Interestingly enough, this was the only pro show the late Paul Quadzilla de Mayo ever competed in. He got a special invite. He was 12th place. Ronnie was in that show. He was all the way up to 11th. He was getting there. Still, you know, nobody was worried about Ronnie back then. but
Mhm.
this was your second runner-up in a row. So what was that like, almost getting it once
Uh,
again?
it felt great. At this point, it's like, man, I'm getting close, but I still wasn't quite there. It must have been something that the judges um, wasn't quite, fully happy with me. I didn't know what it was. I know that I put in all the work that I possibly could put in.
Yeah.
And again, going up against Dorian Yates and getting second against him for the second time, that just fueled my fire even more. I think that might have been a year that I decided to shave my head. I'm not sure if I did come back with a bald head that year.
Yeah.
But I think, just Dorian Yates was the type of bodybuilder that he kept getting better also, even though he had injuries and stuff like that. It was just his mental mindset, his presentations, and sitting there at the Mr. Olympia, walking out on stage. I just remember that whole arena. All you could hear was those horns going off. Those guys,
the
they
Brits.
flew all the way over here. The Brits flew all the way over here. If you thought New York City crowd was hardcore, they had nothing on the British.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those nights, man. You walk out on stage and you just hear that. It's like, now here they come.
Yeah.
So he's got the momentum behind him. He's Mr. Olympia. He's pushing. And it was just a dogfight. It was just a dogfight, When I went out there, I gave it all I had once again. And hey, got second place. I was happy with that. I mean, I was never the type of athlete who was disappointed in my performances or my training or placing that, because I just said, what, I did my best leading up to that show, and cars just didn't fall my way. So, but I'm happy. I mean, we had some good times.
Right on. Here we go right into the next year. You're in the mix once again. Now it's Dorian again, of course. Of course, he won 6 years in a row, guys, for those who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Sean Ray, second place. You're right behind him in third. Fourth place, Flex Wheeler. Was this the first time Flex had been back since he broke his neck? I think it might have been. And,
I think that might have been the year, yeah. Was
yeah.
that the year that Yates tore his
he had, I
bicep?
believe, no, I believe he had that bicep tear as early as the 94 Olympia.
Right.
So that was
That's what I think.
His right bicep was he never got it fixed. It was all the way over here.
Yeah.
And
now that year right there you're talking about, I believe, my whole thing is, I don't think they wouldn't call me out next to Dorian in the prejudging. I think I might have had a bald head that year. I'm not sure, but they wouldn't put me next to him. And I think it's because of, he did have that injury, and there were some things that he was struggling with, whether he was going to get in the show or not, but he came, and he wasn't 100%.
right.
And I believe, my honest opinion, they put Sean in the middle to be like a decoy. You know what I mean? So
a buffer.
Yeah, a buffer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I remember one of those years that they just wouldn't give me a call out next to him and in the prejudging rounds. So whatever photos we got that year, that happened during the pose down.
How do you get third? How do you get third place in the Olympia without ever being put next to the champion, though? That seems kind of bizarre, don't you think?
I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, the judging is, I'm just going to put it out there right now. The judging was pretty crappy at times back then. I saw some things go down, and I'm sure you did too, that were just not unacceptable. And I think the judging now, here and now, today, with Steve Weinberger and Tyler, it's 100% better. Those days I saw some shenanigans going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, perfect scores and this and that were given out back in those days. And, it was a lot of booze too. It was a lot of booze going on when the crowd's not stupid.
Right.
Fans aren't stupid. Fans do their research and everything. And now you don't have it. You don't hear the booing. I think bodybuilding, I sit back and I look at these shows nowadays, and I'm happy with 90, 95, 99% of the outcome.
Yeah. So 1997, the good example of what we're talking about, it was Dorian's final Olympia win. He came into it with his tricep was like 95% off. It was literally hanging by a couple little threads. He was not at his best. He admits it. That's the year Nasser took
Mhm.
second. And a lot of people thought Nasser really had him that year. Sean Ray was third. You were fourth. Paul Gillette was fifth. But I don't think those were the results that were read at the night show. I think that's the year, Long Beach, California, where you had a top five announced at the contest. And then at the banquet, an hour or two later, I think Wayne D'Amelia came around and explained to you guys, there was a problem with the scoring. And this was actually,
Yeah.
here's what the top five actually was, which you must have been like, huh? Are you kidding me right
Yeah.
now?
And I remember one of those years, like it was like Nassar, when they did that switch like that, I moved up in his spot and I never got my trophy. I never got my trophy or my prize money for that spot
What?
to this day. No, I should have had a third place trophy, but one is out there. There's one out there somewhere, maybe at his family's house, but it certainly has my name on it.
Unbelievable. Okay. So we're gonna end this as part one, and we're gonna do this because you did so many Olympias. So guys, this is the end of part one. We'll be back with part two very soon, probably next week. So thanks for watching Levrone Report. We'll see you next time.